Welcome back to another episode, Season 2 of Emotional Nightmares. I am your host. My name is Tyler. And on today's episode, I have a good friend of mine. His name is Justin. He's going to come on here and tell us a little bit about his recovery story of what he did, what it was like, and what it's like today. So with that, we're going to go ahead and introduce Justin.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. Thanks for having me on. So,
Absolutely.
Like I said, my name's Justin, and this is my little buddy Casey here. And
we'll get to the snake that I'm terrified of here in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get to that. This is a big chunk of my recovery nowadays, so we'll dig into that. But yeah, I got clean.
I feel like, what's his name? One of the late night talk shows. We should do it. We're gonna do an episode and have you bring all your exotic animals.
There you go.
We'll do that.
The real exotic ones I'm gonna have to keep at home, but I can bring some pretty exotic ones.
There we go. All right, go ahead.
So I got clean on. Ironically, it was my favorite holiday, Halloween. I'm real into I'm really big into horror movies and stuff like that. I had a channel reviewing horror movies and stuff. So ironically, I got clean on Halloween of 2015. And It's a funny story because I was a real bad heroin addict, and my soulmate, if you will, in high school we were obsessed with each other. My wife now, Cheyenne, we actually were together right after high school. And when I graduated high school, I'd never even seen marijuana. I spent most of my time at rodeos, I was riding bulls, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there was guys there that would smoke weed, maybe take some painkillers, stuff like that, but I never got into it. I never saw weed. I've seen some people pop some pain pills, but I was I'm just staying away from that because I saw some guys get hooked on it. And a few times when I got hurt real bad riding, I would just kind of take a bare minimum of what I needed to just get by. And then, of course, some of the other guys would be like, hey, can I get some of this? So I didn't care. I'd give them behind the chutes before they rode or whatever.
That's interesting. So, what introduced you?
So, after I graduated high school, all right, I had a full-time job, and my mom and dad had just bought a new farm. So when they moved to the farm, I actually stayed behind in that house, and I just started paying them rent. So I graduated high school. Right out of high school, I had a full-time job working at Liberty Electronics. I was renting the house from my mom and dad, and I had a buddy of mine, Dylan, move in with me.
You were drinking at the time, though, right? Off and on?
Yeah.
Okay. Drugs weren't introduced, but alcohol was there, right? Because you rodeo folk, you country folk be fucking drinking.
They like to bottle a little bit, so yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So we would drink and we would party quite a bit, but really what it was about a year after I graduated high school, I started getting anxiety really bad and panic attacks, and I didn't understand why, because I never used to get them. It just started getting really bad, and the doctors put me on some medicine, and they said, hey, this is going to help you, or it's going to make it a whole hell of a lot worse, and if it makes it worse, come back in and see us. So I started taking the pills as prescribed, and I just started missing work a lot.
Would they give you oxys? Were you part of the oxy people?
No, they gave me, it was like a form of...
A narcotic, nonetheless.
Yeah. And anyway,
I thought you were going to be a part of it, because you know how Big Pharma, Oxycontin, they created a lot of drug addicts, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
A ton. Most of them, absolutely. We got one on the loose here. So, she's coming over to see you, Tyler.
No. I don't want that snake.
So, so the panic attacks just got really bad, and of course I didn't go back into the doctor. I was like, I'll just take care of it myself. Well, then I would skateboard off and on too, because I always liked skating. I know bull riding and skateboarding don't really go hand in hand, but I always thought skateboarding was cool. Well, one day I was skateboarding, I ditched work to go skateboarding, and ironically, the first thing I ever tried was Suboxone Subutex. He had them, and I was like, what's that? And he's like, oh, you don't want any of this. And I was like, yeah, sure I do. I don't care. What is it? And he told me. So, and I don't understand, because I did he gave me a little bit, and I was like, what are you doing? I need more. I saw what you did. He's like, no, you don't want more.
So that's interesting. So what was going on in your life at that time, though? Because it's crazy, like, when I'm hearing you talk, like, okay, like, you were drinking here and there, having some parties, like typical teenage kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, something drove you to the point where, with what you just described, of like, nah, fucking, I need that, right? Like, no, I want to do this. Like, no, I'm done. Like, fuck it, I don't care anymore, right? So,
Yeah.
like, what was going on in your life that kind of like led you to that, like, I don't care anymore point?
The panic attacks just got so out of hand, and I just couldn't deal with it anymore, honestly. Because like I've thought long and hard about that. I've gone over it with sponsors in the past. Like I don't know. The panic attacks just got real bad. I don't know. Maybe it's because growing up, like I had a lot of things handed to me. You know, I had I have a great big family that treats me great. I'm very fortunate to have what I have and have had what I have had.
Right.
So maybe, when I graduated high school, it was just, I went from that, doing what I want, to living on my own, full-time job. Maybe it was just too much at once for some people. Maybe it was just
That's
kind of
fair.
like an overload, and
That's
it
fair.
just, stress and anxiety just
Yeah.
started building up and building up.
I mean, that's fair. And a lot of times, like, we don't, like, addicts aren't something that just happen. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, there's all these things in life. So, like, it's a gradual step, right? And, like, there's always these things, like, all throughout childhood that's going on, and, like, there's all these little tiny things that kind of build up until eventually it's like, oh wow, I found a coping skill, right? And
Yeah.
then obviously drugs and alcohol become the only coping skill. And then at that point, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, is like, at that point, once the drugs and alcohol have become the coping skill, we stop learning other coping skills. So, like, when you take the drugs and alcohol away now and you're like, okay, now go live life, it's like, what the fuck? It's even more of a panic attack, right? Like,
Absolutely.
you don't even know.
Yep.
You know?
100%. So yeah, I started doing subs, and like I said, he had a big old rail lined out there, and then he gave me a little bit. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Trust me, like, you don't want any more." And I was like, "Sure I do." So he just gave me a tiny bit more, and I did that first line, and at first I was like, "Yeah, it feels all right." Then I just started puking like uncontrollably, and I was working it was back when Taylor's Pub was a bar, and I was bartending and doing dishes there. So I went into work, and I just couldn't quit puking. I'd puke, then I'd drink, then I'd puke some more. Then I got off of work that night, and I asked him for some more. I don't understand that, but I did. And after that second time,
I mean, I understand that. I mean, I think everybody listening kind of understands that. Like, oh, maybe I need more. You know, I get it.
Exactly.
I get it.
Yep. So I did. I went and got more, and then it just turned into something every day. Then that branched off, and I found a buddy, because one of the guys that he used to get them from, I got in good with him, and then he started, he introduced me to like perks and stuff like that, and I got real into that because I loved those perks. And then I met a guy through him where he would get some of his perks from that had the heroin, and then I started hanging out with him, so I kind of just took steps to get up to that heroin, and once I got up to that heroin, I snorted it a couple times, and I said I'd never shoot because I'm scared of needles, whatever. But when the time came, that didn't stop me, because I was trying coke a bunch, and I don't know, if something about me, like when I snort coke, like it would make it numb and stuff, but I never sped off of it. I never felt anything. And all these other people were like, "No, this stuff's from Detroit. It's amazing." And I was like, "Really?" Because it's not doing anything. Well, that's the first time I ever used a needle, and when I injected that, I was like, wow, like I should have never done that.
Whole new life.
Yeah, a whole new ball game. Whole new ball game.
Yeah.
So right after that, I started shooting coke and heroin, daily, obviously. And heroin was the big thing. And I went to a couple rehabs. I just, got out and used. They weren't really great rehabs. There wasn't really a whole lot of accountability there or anything like that. So they didn't.
Well,
really help.
when you went into rehab, right? Did you even want to change?
The first time, not at all, no. I did it for family and friends, and I didn't want to change at all, no.
That's something that I try to stress a lot to the listeners, is like, rehab's not the cure, right? Because, like, there comes that point where at rehab we can only do so much.
Yep.
The person has to want to change. And like if it's just for I gotta do this to get out of jail or probation or to get my baby's mom back or get my baby dad back or whatever that is, like, it's not gonna work.
Yeah. Not gonna happen.
No, not at all.
Nope.
So a couple rehabs.
Yep, so a couple rehabs, and then that's when it got real bad. That's when I overdosed a few times. The one time, it was really bad, because apparently where I was at, me and another guy overdosed, and she saved us. She said that we were like blue and stuff, and then when I came to, I went to get off the couch and I fell because my legs just like wouldn't work. It's almost like off of Wolf of Wall Street. Like, that happened to me, and my legs just wouldn't work. And I was driving my mom's car at the time. It was a manual. And when I got up, I finally got to where I could just walk a little bit, and I grabbed the keys from her, and she's screaming at me not to leave. So I left, and I went down to Quick Fill. And I looked like an idiot because I did some more, halfway. I stopped at
of course you did.
Up there off the side of the road at the Arbors, and then by the time I got into Quick Fill here, I had blown off work that day, and my family and friends were all out looking for me. Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they didn't even know that I knew I was. That they knew that I wasn't at work. I didn't know that yet. So and plus I thought it was like noon. It was like 5 o'clock in the evening. So I did some more. Then I went to Quick Fill, and I had a syringe in my ear, and I went in there, and I was making a big scene. And like the lady in there was really sweet. Like somebody else was there. I was like, "Let's call the cops." And she's like, "No, I know him. He's in here all the time. Like, don't call the cops." Well, then my family, my mom and dad, and one of my friends were driving in a vehicle, and they pulled in, and they came up. They confronted me, and I was like, "No, I'm not using. And then my mom grabbed the syringe out of my ear, and she's like, "Well, what's that?" And I was like, "Huh, I guess I might have done a little bit." And then my dad grabbed me, and just because he's like, "You got two choices." He's like, "You can get in the vehicle, and we're going to take you to the hospital, and we're going to figure this out. Or I can grab you and put you in the vehicle, and we're going to go to the hospital and figure this out." So I was like, "You forgot about option number 3. And he's like, "What's that?" And I went to take off running, and I tripped. He grabbed me, and he choked me out and threw me in the back of the car, and I woke up a couple days later in the hospital. But the craziest thing is when I woke up a couple days later in the hospital, no one was in the room. Like, I remember stuff, I remember going through, like, this and that, seeing my parents, seeing a couple of my friends, whatever. But then when I finally came to, there was nobody in the room. Because it was like, I don't remember, it was kind of later at night. It was like 11 o'clock or something, I think. Well, when I came to, I was like, what's going on? I kind of started piecing stuff together. And I reached in my back pocket, and there was still a bag of heroin in my back pocket. So I went to jump up, and here I had stuff, IVs in my arms and stuff. And I was like, well, so I grabbed the I grabbed the IV thing, and I wheeled it into the bathroom with me. And I didn't have any needles, but I lined it up and snorted the rest of the heroin that I had that was in my pocket still. And I was just like, wow, that's insane. Like waking up
crazy.
Days later in the hospital.
So what was the turning point? What was the point of like, shit, man, I gotta end this insanity? Because it sounds like at this point in time in your life, like all this insane stuff's going on. You're losing jobs. I mean, I know your uncle, right? So I know he fired you, right? I know that you're losing self-respect from your family. You're not doing all this stuff, so you're hitting rock bottom. What was that turning point where you were like, yeah, man, I got to do something different?
Yeah, for sure. So the first part of where I actually wanted to get clean, because like I said, when I graduated high school, like I was the perfect kid. Like my uncle would have told you that he would have lost his life betting that if there's nobody that did drugs, it would have been me, and that just goes to show you that it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
But where I first wanted to get clean for myself was I actually shot one of my best friends with a .22 long rifle in the leg. And like it wasn't just a graze, like it went in the thigh, came out the thigh, took a chunk out of the calf on the other leg. Luckily, he was okay. He was in and out of the hospital in like a day. They just gave him some, medications, and he was okay, and he's doing great. And when that happened, they took him to the hospital, and they came and they investigated it all. Because I guess anything with a gunshot, they have, they obviously have to take that seriously. And of course, I told him I was like, lie to him. Tell him you shot yourself in the leg with this 22 pistol. So he did. And he screwed the story up, which is good, because I shouldn't have gotten away with it. So when they came out to investigate it, I got caught. And, I was just losing my mind at this point. Like, I thought it was funny. Like, I was being a jerk to the cops and stuff. Well, and then I knew I was going to get some sort of trouble for it, obviously. But that's when I really sat back like a couple days later, because we went to the hospital. They told me to the hospital that night because they're like, "How do you think this is funny that you shot your best friend?" Like, and I just kept, I was like, "It was funny. It's a joke." But I think I was just losing my mind. So they took me to the hospital, and I spent a few days there, and I was detoxed there and got my mind a little bit right, and that's when I was just able to sit back with a drug-free mind and like look at what I've done and what I've become. How much I've really spiraled out of control. And that's when I was like, yeah, I want to do something about this for the better. So I got put on court supervision, and I had to do some like IOP and stuff. And like I wanted to do better, but I was struggling. I kept failing drug tests here and there, and I was on an alcohol monitor, and alcohol wasn't even like what I liked to do, but I even got a positive alcohol reading, like, and I was just like, why can I not quit? Like, I want to quit. Why can I not just put it down? Like, it should be that simple, right? But apparently now we know for not everybody, it's not that simple. So that was definitely the point in my life where I was like, I got to do something, because like because I've stolen stuff from other family members and people I don't know. But like when I actually shot somebody and like could care less at the time, I was just able to sit back and think like, wow, like what have I become? Like I have to fix this.
Yeah. So that was the turning point.
That was the turning point. Yeah.
So where'd it go from there? Did you go back to rehab?
Yes. Yep. I went back to a rehab that actually did very well in my opinion, because they were very structured. Like, you had to wake up at this time, your bed had to be made. Like, they were very, very strict about a lot of things, and that really helped me. That rehab actually helped a lot. I'm not gonna say that I was 100% clean out of there. I think I screwed up a couple times, but I had entered the program. That rehab taught me how to actually enter the program correctly and go to meetings, and I started doing that, and I worked the steps. It took me 3 times to work the steps, because what I did was kept some things out of it, like
of course,
what you've done in the past and stuff. I was like, well, I can leave these few things out of it, about a half a dozen things out of it, and just, it'll be fine. Well, it wasn't. And I didn't change people, places, things. Like, I didn't do, that was a huge thing for me, people, places, and things. And then I went through the program again, and I told more of the truth, but still left a couple things out. And I think that it just gets to you. Like, you got to get it all off your chest. Because the third time I went through it, I was like, listen, I'm going to tell you everything. And by that, like, cause I was like, man, is he gonna like call the cops? Is he gonna like, I can get in trouble for telling him stuff. But when I got done telling him stuff, he was just like, all right, good. And I was just like, wow.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is like, we never stop, right? So like and that's why like we always talk about, like, when you do the steps, it's 1 through 12, repeat 1 through 12, repeat 1 through 12. Like, we never quit.
Yep.
Right? Is because more comes to light. You kind of piece more together. And not only that, you start getting more comfortable and you start being honest more. You know what I mean? Because like when you leave that shit out, it eats at you, and it comes back to get you later down the road. So I mean, I'm glad that you recognized that when you did. So, because it's important, man, to be honest and open. So, absolutely. All right, so we're going to meetings, we're working steps, we're getting some time together. So tell me about your recovery today, man. What's it like?
So, and today it's awesome. I still have to watch out for addictive tendencies, because I've been really bad with that.
I wanted to talk to you about that, because like you had said something that I thought was hilarious, but not hilarious, right?
Yeah.
It's where, because that's something like we talk about all the time, right? Is you can put the drugs and alcohol down, but it doesn't mean your addiction quits. Anybody out here that's listening, or anybody in the world, can stop doing drugs and alcohol. You can put it aside, right? But it doesn't mean everything's fixed. And, like, we're going to end up falling back into drugs and alcohol eventually if we don't fix these behaviors. Because our behaviors do manifest in other ways, and it's where the obsessive and compulsive comes in, right? So for a lot of people, you see it all the time. Like, people will get sober, and, like, I always make jokes about this, is like, it's the shoes. Everybody gets sober, gotta have 20 million pairs of shoes, right? You start seeing that addictive behavior. Gotta go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
Gotta get all those addictive behaviors into the gym, which you did, right?
Yep.
You remember when you was doing the gym thing, right? You were a little out of control.
Yeah, I was.
Right?
Very.
So how did these addictive behaviors creep in there?
I think it just filled one thing after another, because I was always addicted to bull riding, that adrenaline rush of riding bulls.
Yeah.
And I just have to throw one thing in here before we keep talking about now in the future. When I graduated high school, my wife now, we were together for a little bit right out of high school. And once I really started getting into the drugs, I knew that it was not going to go well. So I pretty much just told her, like, you just got to distance yourself. And she actually moved away. And then my clean date, Halloween of 2015, that is actually the day that she moved back to PA. Well, she'd been in PA for a couple months. That was the first day that we started hanging out again.
Oh, cool.
So I just threw that in there because that's going to come into play here in a little bit probably. So, but yeah, I always knew.
So she's keeping you on track.
Yes.
Except
100%.
for with the animals.
Yeah, well, she knows it better than alternatives, I guess, because if it wasn't for my wife now, if it wasn't for Cheyenne, I wouldn't be here. There's no way I would be here. Because the whole time, like we're talking about, my addictive tendencies are out of hand.
Yeah.
And she's the one that keeps me in check. She's the one that holds me, accountability against me. Like, if it wasn't for her, I would not be here. And I 100% know that. Like, I am very, very lucky to have found my soulmate and put her through some of the stuff I put her through and still have her. Like, she's still by my side. But so, when we got together, I rode bulls for a little bit. I kept getting hurt, and then I got stomped on really bad. And we were at a rodeo, and I was waiting to see if I made the short go. I could hardly walk. I had buddies helping, like, get me to the bathroom and stuff. And I had a couple buddies.
What's the short go?
So when you're bull riding,
I know nothing about.
So you go through and, like, you have a long go, which is where all the bull riders ride. Okay. And then the ones who ride, the ones who stay on 8 seconds and score the highest, you can come back if you're one of the top 10 or top 15, depending on the rodeo. You'll ride again. You'll get a ranker bull, meaning a bull that bucks harder and meaner and stuff like that. And then you'll ride a second time. Okay. Then they'll tally all of that up, and then you'll see who wins. So I had gotten hurt real bad in the long go. I got hung up, meaning I still had my hand in the rope, and I came off the other side, and I couldn't get my hand out. Well, the bull stomped on me and broke. It messed up my hip, and it stomped on my groin, actually. And I had some buddies. I couldn't really move because of my hip and my groin issues, so I kind of half crawled out of the arena, and then I had buddies kind of help me get to the bathroom. And when I peed, it was blood, and I told him, I was like, don't tell Cheyenne, because I gotta, if I made it to the short go, I'm gonna ride. I might need you to help me put me on the bull. But, and of course, if you have somebody help put you on the bull, you're not gonna stay on 8 seconds. No. That's just how bull riders think. We're gonna ride no matter what.
Did you win a belt?
I did not win a buckle at that rodeo, no.
Okay.
Because
you guys got like the WWF belt buckles.
Yeah. I did not win one at that rodeo, no. So I didn't make it to the short go, but I was in the bathroom and I was peeing blood, and my buddy saw it actually. I was like, just don't tell Cheyenne, I don't want her to know because she'll make me leave. Well, as soon as we get out there, he tells her, and I was like, what the heck?
Good.
So yeah. So we ended up leaving, and
good.
She made me leave. Friend. We went to right. At the time, I didn't think so, but yeah, you're right. It is. So we left, and we went to the ER, and this is when it really hit me. Like, even you putting down the drugs, you still got to watch how you live your life, because it's not only affecting me anymore. Like, I'm laying in the ER for the umpteenth time. To me, it's life. I don't care. I'm used to this. Get hurt all the time riding bulls. But to her, she's sitting there crying because the doctors are saying that they had to do, like, ultrasounds on my testicles, saying, like, if we might have to remove them or something like that. Luckily, they didn't. But like she's crying because like I mean there goes our chance to have kids in the future. Like if we want to have kids,
Yeah.
and that's when it like hit me like that. I'm not just affecting myself. Like I'm affecting other people, and it's the person that means the most to me at all of that. So I quit bull riding, and then that's when I just started working out, and I found bodybuilding, and how I went with that.
You went out of control.
I was way out of control.
I was working out at the time, but like you're working, and I thought mine was crazy because like I was working out like a normal like 5 days a week, and then 2 days and you were just like you were working out like every hour on the hour, like an idiot, because after a point of time it doesn't do anything more, you know what I mean, but right, so you went a little crazy with that.
I went really crazy with that. And of course, it was taking its toll, because I was never home. If I wasn't at work, I was at the gym. And when I was home, I was meal prepping and, doing little exercises in the back room and stuff. So that's where it started taking its toll. Then we moved to Missouri, which was actually a good thing because that's where people, places, and things come into play for me because a lot of people try to justify, like, people, places, things doesn't matter. You're going to find it wherever you go, which can be true to an extent. Like, if you really want it and you're going to go out of your way to go track it down, you can. But if you don't change something and you're running into people every day that have it.
I've always hated that saying, right? I've always hated the whole concept of, like, well, I'm going to take me with you, right? And I'm like, yeah, no shit. But, like, I was just talking about this last night, right? I was talking about this. Sometimes in recovery, like it's not even so. We always talk about people, places, and things. People, places, and things is like 50% of the issue. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like the other 50% is us. Like we're toxic, right? And we got to fix these toxicities. We got to fix our behaviors, fix this, that, and the third. But the people, places, and things are. And like for me, I have met this. I just recently, like I struggle with making new friends per se, right? But I just made this new friend more or less, and me and my girl were talking about it, and I was like, no, like his values match, right? Like this is somebody I want to hang out with because like they're not gonna cheat on their wife. Yeah. They're not trying to go hang out and put themselves in weird places. They're not trying to like do these things, and like that's what I value, right? Because like I don't want to hang out with people today that we used to hang out with back in the day. No. And like I always look at it as like we don't have to be on the same page, but we have to be in the same book. Meaning like I want to go somewhere in life. If you don't want to go somewhere in life, I'm cool with that. Just don't be around me. Right. Yep. I'm all about the progression. Let's progress. We have to be better today than we were yesterday. And like that's huge. So like when we do change people, places, and things, and this we don't focus enough on this, is like I have to ask myself, what kind of people do I want to hang out with? Because who do I want to be, right? Today, one of the things that I enjoy the most, man, is I try to hang out with people that are a bunch of nerdy ass people, right? Because that's what I want to be. I want to sit around and talk about comic books. I've been, I want to play video games. I want to like do stuff that I didn't used to do because like that's fun. Yeah. And like that's the kind of people I want to be around. The people that are not womanizing the girl they're with, who's not with this girl but like trying to get with this girl and that girl. Like I'm good, right? Yes. I'm not the tough guy. I don't want to hang out with the tough guys, right? I want to hang out like I just want to be normal, like live in a normal kind of life. Let's sit around the fire and like talk about like why the stars are the way they are. Right. You know what I mean? Yep. Like shit like Absolutely. That. So I'm glad you bring that up because I don't think we focus enough on that, right? No, so when you went to Missouri, you found different people.
Yes, I found different people.
With good barbecue sauce.
Yes.
Shout out to Missouri. I love their barbecue. Yep. St. Louis got the best.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, Missouri.
Next to North Carolina.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Missouri's awesome. But yeah, I went down there. I found, all different people, great people. And that made it so much easier.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I even slowed down at the gym to where I pretty much stopped. And it wasn't like I was just giving up. I was just content. Like for a while, I didn't need to feed. I didn't need to scratch that itch. I didn't need to feed that. Like I was content.
Sure.
And Cheyenne and I were down there by ourselves. Obviously, our dogs were with us, and we just found some good people to be around. And just the two of us, I wasn't running into those type of people that I knew from back in the day all the time. It wasn't in front of my face here and there. So it made it very easy. Then I was down there and I was selling cars, and I was actually doing very, very well doing that. Very well. To where I was making a ton of money. But my mentality is, if I'm making a ton of money, we got to spend a ton of money. Right?
Right.
If I make $600 this week, I got to spend $600 this week. If I make $2,000 this week, I got to figure out a way to spend $2,500 this week. Like, that's just how it is. So I started spending tons of money, making money, spending money. Not on bad things, but it was bad. It was the tendencies, just blowing all of my money, blowing all of our money. And then it got into horror collectibles, masks, figures, all that kind of stuff. And that got out of hand. I mean, it started out to where, because Cheyenne loves horror movies and stuff too. But enough's enough, though, because she knew what was coming.
Yeah.
So I started bringing stuff home, and she was fun too. Like, we'd go out a couple of days of the week, go hunting for cool stuff, cool collectibles. Because in Missouri, there's all kinds of places down there where you can find cool stuff like that. And we'd go out and hunt, and we'd bring a bunch of stuff home. And then it got to the point where the room she said that I could put it all in was just packed. I mean, shelves and cabinet, all kinds of stuff just packed full of horror collectibles and masks and everything like that. And I started a little YouTube channel doing videos on all of it, and I had somebody giving me some stuff to review things. And then it started going out through the whole house, and the whole house is just covered in horror collectibles. So that got out of hand. And then we were down there for a few years, and it was going really well. But then we moved back a couple years ago. We've been back for about 2 years now, I think. And when I moved back, I was kind of worried, like, putting myself back there. I had some clean time here before I went to Missouri, but I was very cautious of where I did what I, without Cheyenne by my side at least. So when we moved back, it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, with her at least. But by the time we had moved back, I had already gotten into reptiles in Missouri.
Yeah.
So when we came here from Missouri, I had a few reptiles. I think I had like 4 snakes, like 4 non-venomous snakes, maybe 3 venomous snakes, a baby alligator, some tarantulas, scorpions, and lizards.
And now you got all this bullshit.
And
when you came in, it was like, the cobra spit in my eye. I'm like, bro, like, you lost your mind. What the hell you mean you got a cobra spitting in your eye? Like, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, because now I have about 100 animals at home.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are venomous snakes. I have about a half a dozen spitting cobras, probably 20 cobras in general, a bunch of vipers. And I have a lot of non-venomous snakes too, but a lot of my non-venomous snakes are going to get massive. Like, I just showed you a video of how big this girl can get, because she's a baby. She can get over 20 foot long, 3rd biggest snake in the world. And the crazier thing is, the 1st and 2nd largest snake in the world, I own them too. They're just not full grown yet. I have crocodiles. I have a Nile crocodile, which they're the 2nd largest crocodile in the world. I'm aiming to get a saltwater crocodile, which is the largest crocodile in the world.
But you're doing cool things with them now,
I
right?
am.
Like, you're not just like hoarding these things. Like, you're actually, because what is it? You're putting together like a I don't know what you call it, a thing, a place for like people to come see them.
Yes. So, and now it's turning into, that was always what I was aiming for in the beginning, but at the beginning, it was 100% just addictive tendencies, saying like, this is what I'm going to do in the future, and not really taking the steps to do it, because I'm just focusing all my money and time into getting more and more and more and more and more. That was all I cared about. So, and honestly, throughout all this time with Cheyenne being by my side, the worst that it's ever been was from the reptiles. About a year, when we moved back to Missouri, It was good, but the reptile thing just got out of control. So we moved back to Missouri because we wanted to start our own family, and this is where all of our family is. So we came back
Sure.
here for that reason, because we love Missouri. But when we moved back, slowly I just started spending less and less time with her and all the family we moved back to see. Like, I started ignoring everybody. Every time she'd come to me, she'd be like, "Hey, we're going out ghost hunting with the kids. Let's go," or whatever. And I just was like, "No, go ahead. I'll see you later." And I spent no time with her, no time with the family, and it just got really, really bad. Um, the day that it was really bad was I was working with a forest cobra who's really, really mean, and she came and watched me through the crack at the door, and I was just having fun with it, the adrenaline. Or if that snake bites me, I'm dead. Like, even if I get to the hospital before I die, they're not going to save me. I have a lot of snakes that are like that.
Yeah.
And when I put the snake away, I saw her in the doorway, and she opened the door, and she was bawling because she's like, "That's going to be the snake that kills you. I just know it." And she was like, "This has gotten way out of hand. Like, you're not even setting out to do what you said you're going to do with your YouTube channel that I had just started, and, going to events to help educate people. It was just all about me getting more and more and more, and that adrenaline rush of working with the venomous snakes and stuff like that." And the day that it got really bad, though, was because I kind of stopped and thought a little bit about it there, but then the next day I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll change." Then the next day I kind of chalked it up and started all over again, got back to the way I had been for the past couple of years. So I had a grandma pass about that time, a couple weeks after that, I think. And she came and told me about it as she came to one of the reptile rooms, because where I'm at, right now I don't have the facility and everything ready to go. I'm going to spray foam and everything like that, insulate it and everything like that. So right now everything is in different locked and sealed rooms and locked and sealed enclosures and everything like that. But she came to one of those rooms and told me that my grandma had just died, and I was like, "Oh, that sucks," And just kept doing what I was doing.
Hmm.
And then she was like, "Justin, your grandma died," and I was like, "Yeah, I heard you. Like, I heard you." She was like, "Well, do you think we ought to go to her house?" And I was like, "Yeah, am I Jesus? Am I gonna bring her back from the dead? Like, I mean, what do you? These animals need me." She's like, "Your family needs you." I was like, "What am I gonna do to help my family? I can't bring her back. These snakes need my attention. They can't care for themselves." And that scared her. You know what I mean? Because she was like, "If that's like
Sure.
if that's what I'm turning into, like, what's our future gonna be? Am I gonna care, like, or if we have kids, am I gonna care about our kids? Am I gonna care? Do I care about her like I used to?" So that is when it really, really hit me.
So in a sense, reptiles became the new heroin
Yeah,
for you, right?
100%.
Okay.
They did. And it got so bad to where I was like, "But I can't quit keeping reptiles, but I'm gonna have to." And I went through a little bit more depression and anxiety. But I've overcome that just by talking, because I would never talk. I'd never ask for help. I never talk things out. I never talk about things that are bothering me. So, I would sit down with Cheyenne and we would just talk, and we got through it like that. And now that I'm doing everything I was doing with the reptiles, but in the right way.
Right.
Now my YouTube channel is starting to go somewhere. I'm getting more subscribers and stuff like that. I have an event coming up on the 7th, working with the Cub Scouts. I'm like headlining this event to get kids to come in,
Cool.
look at the animals, educate the kids, and then they'll talk to the Cub Scout people. Will talk to the kids about trying to get them involved in Cub Scouts.
So you're turning into a regular Steve Irwin.
Yeah. So it's turning into it's slowly starting to turn into what I wanted it to be in the beginning.
Cool.
Once I slowed down with it. I know that you would think it would be the opposite way,
Yeah.
but I just had to really slow down and prioritize things, because that was the worst. She said, "Back in the day when you were on drugs," she's like, "it's worse now than when you were on drugs." And she cried and walked away, and I was just like, wow. Like, that just...
That's heavy.
That blew my mind. Because, like we just talked about, you're not on drugs, so you're doing good, right?
No.
No. Not at all.
No, and that's I hate this new location. This like right, I can hear every car that goes by, but
Right.
there's no other way to change it. No matter where I put it, it's gonna be facing the road. So if you hear the cars going by, like, sorry, there's nothing I can do. I got soundproof up too, nonetheless, right?
Yep.
But anyway, that's something that like is huge. Like that's a huge thing for you to recognize, is because the substance, like drugs and alcohol, are not always the problem, and everybody always thinks like if you put drugs and alcohol down, everything will be fine, and
Yep.
da 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 da. And it's like, no, like this is mental health, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
substance abuse, the drugs and alcohol are the underlining, like they're just the surface issue. Of course you can see it, right? But when
Right.
you take that away, there's all these underlying factors and our behaviors and the way we do things, the way we react to things, the way we see the world. I'm real big on it's our perception, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
feelings aren't real. The way we do things, it's not always real. Nothing, like it is your perception of the reality, because you create your own reality. And like it's how you view things. Both of us can see something and see it differently,
Yep.
right? So that tells us like our problem lies in our perception. So like I'm glad that you recognize that. I'm glad that you bring that to the forefront, because like at least last season, like we didn't really focus a lot on that. In this season, like I definitely want to focus a lot more on that stuff,
Yeah.
on the recovery and the behaviors and how like, man, all this shit can change. Blink of an eye.
Oh yeah.
You know, I know I've been in relationships before where like my addictive personalities have come out in other forms, and it's the other person standing there like, but what about me?
Yep.
You're neglecting me for this.
Absolutely.
It's why we're toxic sometimes.
Yeah. Very.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, you came a long way, man. You turned it around.
Yep.
Now you're doing all right.
Yep. Luckily, from the girl that stood by my side through it all, because like you were just talking about the relationships and the neglect, I mean, you're talking about somebody who stuck with me through. She was neglected when I was riding bulls. She was neglected while I
Hmm.
was bodybuilding. She was neglected while I was collecting horror stuff out trying to get that all the time. She was neglected with the reptiles.
She
And
probably doesn't have
she's.
too many more neglects in her.
No, I don't think she does. It's taken a
Everybody's got a
toll
breaking point.
on her.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah. It's something to always remember.
absolutely. I
Yeah,
cannot lose her, and I won't. So,
that's good. I'm glad that you recognize that. So, what's your YouTube channel?
so my YouTube channel is HHH Exotics, Triple H Exotics.
And you're talking about your animals?
Yeah, yeah. I do videos with different animals. I'm gonna start doing more like species spotlight videos, like educating more about particular animals. Like like Casey is a Burmese python, and the snakes you hear about down in the Everglades that are wicked and they're all crazy and they all need killed. Like this is what they're talking about right here.
Yeah.
This is that wicked, crazy snake. Now, obviously, she's a baby. She's only a couple years old, and she has the potential to get over 20 foot long. And in the wild, they are defensive because they're scared.
Well, yeah.
Even if a snake's 20 foot long, it's only that far off the ground, and we're 6 foot tall human beings. So you come up to them, they're scared to death. They're scared for their lives. But 99% of the time, a snake in the wild is going to do everything in its power to tell you, like, stay away from me, get away from you. Like rattlesnakes, their rattles are literally to tell you, like, hey, I'm here. Please go around me or go the opposite way, like, because they don't want to hurt us, especially venomous snakes. Venomous snakes use that venom to kill their prey, so they need that venom. The last thing they want to do is waste their venom on us, something that's way too big for them to eat. Like, they
Yeah.
don't want to do that. But yeah, so I'm just,
I mean, let's just leave them alone. I fucking hate snakes, and I'm not a fan. Um, I do a lot of fishing. I run into water snakes and cottonmouth a lot, and like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. As soon as I see them, I'm like, you got this. I just roll around. I'll leave. I'm like, it's your area. I'm out. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
You'll
piss
have a
with
pet
them.
snake one day.
No, no,
Yep.
no.
I've had.
I mean, Leah wants one.
Oh.
But I got a cat. You know, he's part of the logo. You know,
Yep.
I have my cat. He don't want a snake. You know, we have a parrot. They don't want.
Yeah.
He don't want a snake. You know, we're good on that. Yeah. So that's good. So I mean, it's good, man. You got a lot of cool shit going on, a lot of good stuff going on, a lot of educational stuff. That's really awesome. Like I'm proud of you, man, for being able to get involved with like the youth and like start showing them stuff. Cause like that is cool.
Yep.
I know, like me as a kid, like I thought it was cool too. I think we all do as
Oh
kids,
yeah.
right? Like these things are cool. I don't know where my fear of snakes came from later in life, but most people, that's how it happens. So I mean, it's cool, man. I'm glad that you get to do this shit. So
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Literally living the dream now.
yeah,
Because as a little
absolutely.
kid, Steve Irwin, I worship Steve Irwin and a lot of bull riders. You know, I wanted to be a professional bull rider, but I always wanted to keep animals. And as a kid, I was allowed to keep a lizard here and there at my grandma's house, not at my house. So I always had a reptile at my
Yeah,
great grandma's house growing up. But I was only allowed to have one at a time. It had to be a lizard. It couldn't be a snake. It had all these restrictions, which at the time was a good thing that they
yeah.
had all those restrictions probably. Um,
Well, clearly, because as an adult,
yeah,
you're not doing fucking good at
right, exactly. Yep.
it. So yeah,
Definitely couldn't have handled it back then.
yeah, right. Okay. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you for coming through, stopping through. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, thank you. No,
Okay.
I don't think so. If
All
you're
right.
interested in animals at all, just check out HHH Exotics, and we're starting to do events too. Like I said, I'm gonna start doing like birthday parties for educational stuff, and like I said, my first event's on the 7th with the Cub Scouts, and that's gonna be really cool. Bringing
Cool.
kids in to get them involved with Cub Scouts, because nowadays so many kids just sit in front of a TV or a computer all day. You know, they don't want the responsibility of pets because they don't understand. You know, so just
Yeah.
try to help educate people.
That's cool. I mean, I know we got some people from the school district that are listening, or they do listen. I know somebody that from one of the juvenile detention centers, they listen.
Awesome.
They were playing one of our episodes up there. Um, so hopefully, if they're watching, man, hopefully they reach out. I'll put your contact links in the
Yeah, please do.
description,
Awesome.
the description box. So in the description box, we'll have his contact links in there. Um, so if you want to reach out to Justin, have him come out with all his crazy animals, we can do some cool stuff, man.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you for coming. So, you know, as I always say, man, you could have been anywhere in the world today, but here today you chose to sit here and be here with us. I appreciate you for stopping through, listening to us talk a little bit. Hopefully we helped. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you got something to help you get through another day sober, because that's what it's about. It's about learning to get through just one more day, you know? And if you can just get one more day, you know, your tomorrow looks brighter. So just make it through the day. If you're struggling, please reach out and call somebody. You don't have to do this alone. So, all right.
That's the thing. One day at a time.
One day at a
That
time.
is so. It sounds so
Really
simple, but
is.
it's so large. Because when
Yeah.
you're in addiction, you live one day at a time, like a son of a bitch. You know, like, oh, my
Yeah.
electric's gonna get shut off if I don't pay this by tomorrow. But we just got to get through the night and get
Yeah.
high. Like, just one day at a time sounds little, but it is huge.
I mean, yeah, and I think we take it for granted. Like one of the, like in recovery, like, you know, I always tell people, like, stop looking about, am I gonna, like, whatever you got going on right now, a year from now it's not gonna matter. So
Yep.
don't worry about what's gonna happen 6 months from now. If I know today, if I can just get through today sober, tomorrow looks better,
Yes.
right? Like, it's gonna look
Absolutely.
better, obviously.
Yep.
Now, granted, we might have these behaviors come up because our addiction lives in other forms, right?
Yep.
But as long as we don't put drugs and alcohol in our body, it can't get any worse.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yep.
we can always come back from that. Drugs and alcohol, unlike the normal person, normal people, you know, they can go have a drink and they go to bed, right? They just go to sleep and they wake up and they're fine. We go have a drink. Like, if I go have a drink today, I just start committing felonies.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, if you can just make it through one more day. So hopefully today, hopefully we gave you something to just make it through one more day. So if you need anything, reach out to somebody. So I appreciate you for stopping by the channel.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you for watching.